Okay, so for section 1.5, the describing and comparing data with dot plots and Stemplots, I have quite a few things that I wanted to go over that are in the quiz. It's a lot more calculations for this one. And so the first thing is when it's asking you for a percentage of data or a proportion of the data that is more than or less than something, then you actually have to go through and count the items that are there for that value. And so what's happening here is we have to look at how many different items we have on the bar, or sorry, how many different dots we have, and how many different stem and leaves we have in order to find any kind of proportion. So if we count the number of dots on the dot plot, we can see that there are 40 of them. So I'm literally going through and counting how many dots there are. And then with the stem plot, you're just looking at the leaves. So you are only counting these numbers. So the 4 all the way to that 2, and there's 20 of those. And so based on the set of data, we're going to find proportions. So the first question here is asking us what percentage of students take more than 8 minutes to eat their breakfast? So if 8 minutes is here, it's asking me what is this percentage here. So I have to count those values. So if I count how many dots are there, we've got 1, 2, there's 10 and then 15. So there's 15 students that take more than 8 minutes to eat their breakfast, but I have to divide that by 40 to get the proportion. So if I divide 15 by 40, that gives me about 38% that fit that scenario. So about 38% take more than 8 minutes. For the next one, it's asking us what percent of data is below 34. So if I figure out where 34 is, so 34, this number here would represent 34. So I'm looking at the values that are below 34. So that means I'm looking at these values. Okay, so if I count how many of those we have 6 values. Oops. We have 6 values that are below 34 and then 20 values total. That means that we're going to have about 30% of data that's below 34. Okay, so that's when it's asking for a percentage. So I have to count the total if they don't give it to me in the problem. And then I have to count how many dots or leaves fit inside that category that they're asking about, and then divide that by the total. So then the next concept that I wanted to go over was finding the median. So when I'm finding the median on a dot plot, remember that we already know that there are 40 dots on here. So if I think about that, that means that the median would be between the 20 and the 21st dot, because that's the middle, right? 50% is 20, the other 50% is 20. And so I know that it's going to occur there. So if I'm looking at how many dots are here, so we've got 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So this would be the location of the median. So because it's all in 5, right? The 20th dot is 5 and the 21st dot is 5. That means that the median equals 5. And I would do the same thing with the stem plot. So since the stem plot, I have 20 data values, that would mean it's between 10 and 11 is where my median lies. And so if I've got values here, so I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So my median would occur here between 5 and 7. And so that means that, remember, when my median is between two values, I would do technically 5 plus 7 divided by 2, but hopefully we can see that that means that 6 is the median there. And so that's how I would be able to calculate the median based on these values. So in the videos, they did talk about where the median lies on like the different types of data sets. So hopefully you have the drawings where it shows where the median would be for a skew left, a skew right, and a symmetric data set, because that is a visual part of some of the questions. But I just wanted to make sure you understood the computational way to find them. The last thing is variability. So variability is where I'm finding the range, right? So we talked about the range value. To find the range, we're taking the maximum data value and subtracting the minimum data value. And so if I look at the dot plot, that means that I'm taking 12 and subtracting 0. So my range is 12. For the stem plot, my first data value is 4 and my last data value is 72. So I'm taking 72 and subtracting 4. And so that means that the variability is 68. Okay, so that's what I wanted to go over to make sure that kind of filled in some gaps from the lesson describing and comparing data with dot plots and stem plots.